Good afternoon, everyone. I was asked to talk a little bit about the impact of the new administration and executive orders on our community and what my organization, Asian Counseling and Referral Service, or ACRS, is doing in response to stand with our communities. In order to understand the impact, it's important to understand some facts about our Asian communities. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time offering some real facts and then talk a little bit about the impact of the executive orders, the new administration, some proposed legislation, and what we're doing at ACRS in response. So to the facts. These are facts which oftentimes aren't well known. Asia now sends more immigrants to the United States than any other region of the world. Asians are the fastest growing racial group in the nation, fueled by immigration. The Asian community is the largest immigrant and refugee group and the largest racial minority group in Seattle and King County, at around 15% in Seattle and King County and over 30% in the city of Bellevue. 67% speak a language other than English in our homes. Asian community history is defined by U.S. immigration policy, and the mother of all travel bans was the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, followed by exclusionary policies affecting the rest of Asia. At a time when 35 to 40 million European immigrants were arriving in America, Asia was limited to an annual quota of 150 immigrants. Our community experienced racial profiling and detention on a massive scale, with the unconstitutional World War II incarceration of Japanese Americans and their immigrant parents in American concentration camps. We have the experience to know the danger that talk of establishing Muslim registries represents. Groundless racial profiling and religious profiling, especially of Asian Muslims and Sikhs, and detentions regrettably continue to this day in the wake of 9/11. There are over 1 million undocumented Asians in the United States, and this population is the fastest growing undocumented population in Washington State. ICE agents pick up Asians as well as other undocumented immigrants, ripping their families apart, and they continue to be incarcerated at Northwest Detention Center and subsequently deported along with other immigrants. As Mozart mentioned, U.S. immigration policy has been race-based, and we see that with the establishment of U.S. immigration policy with the Chinese Exclusion Act, and regrettably it continues to this day. As to the impact of the new administration and executive orders and legislation in our community, as you can see from this recitation of some facts, these things are not new to our community, but it is a deep source of concern that we seem to be returning back to some of the worst instances of our experience in this country. The recent immigrant and refugee-related executive orders directly affect Asian and Pacific Islanders and our community. Islamophobia and white nationalist views are behind these executive orders, and these affect APIs and create a climate of hate, resulting in a prevalence of unreported hate incidents in the community, as well as deep fear among even naturalized or American-born citizens in our community, from children to adults. The proposed reduction of half of the refugee population and pausing admissions for at least 90 days would affect our community. Legislation proposed by Southern senators to cut immigration by half would also directly impact us. The increasing emphasis on enforcement and deportations directly affect us, creating great fear and uncertainty in undocumented and mixed status communities. The proposed repeal of the Affordable Care Act, which our president has championed, especially as a candidate, and continues to champion to this day, would cause 24 million in our country to lose health care coverage and would disproportionately affect the Asian Pacific Islander community. His actions to roll back efforts to combat climate change would directly and disproportionately also affect our community. So what is ACRS doing to stand with our community and to respond to these challenges? As was mentioned earlier, ACRS is a social justice organization, and it was founded out of the civil rights movement here in Seattle. And we provide a wide range of behavioral health and human services, primarily to immigrants and refugees, and predominantly from Asia and the Pacific, but also from other parts of the world. The people under policy assaults from the Trump administration are the people that we serve. We're compelled to assist our community by educating the community about what's going on, what their rights are, and what they can do in culturally competent and linguistically accessible ways. This is why ACRS is joining with other organizations in hate crimes and know your rights trainings to reach our community. This is why we're active with coalitions like the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Outreach Network and front and centered, and we're proud to join El Comité in the May Day March that's coming up soon, and hope we'll all see you there. We're training the community in culturally competent, linguistically accessible ways about the importance of civic engagement, including naturalizing voter registration and voting. This is why we created the AAPI Democracy Initiative, to lower barriers to civic participation in our community, to train and mobilize people to advocate, register to vote, and vote. In addition, we continue to provide culturally competent and linguistically accessible mental health and other behavioral health services, which are never more important than now. I was talking to one of my Cambodian colleagues who mentioned to me that this is the worst time that he has experienced since escaping the killing fields in Cambodia. The fear and the terror that these executive orders thankfully held up by the courts, but nonetheless the terror that they were designed to create and are creating are having a deep impact on all of our communities. In addition, we continue to provide other immigrant integration services like citizenship, employment, and other immigrant and integration services, including legal clinics in partnership with King County Bar Association and Asian Bar Association of Washington. I'd like to also just say that when you think about what's going on now, as has been pointed out before, Islamophobia is a big driver of what is happening, but as Mozart also pointed out, racism is also at the root, and the combination of these two things is creating an atmosphere of terror and discrimination, not only in our communities, but also in policy and legislation. And unless we understand that these two things are connected, and it is because the face of our nation is literally changing due to immigration policy. It is because we are literally becoming a more multiracial, multicultural country. It is because we are becoming a much more diverse country with people of many religious faiths, but all of whom support the basic values of our country. It is because of the sea change that we are seeing so many attacks on the rights of immigrants, refugees, and people of color. These things are connected, and until we understand that, we're going to have a more difficult time combating it. That's why it is so exciting to see so many of our community leaders coming together across many different fields, across many different racial communities, nationalities, religions, across different issue areas, across gender lines, workers of every kind, people combating climate change, women joining together to address these terrible assaults on our community together. I believe that the silver lining of this terrible time is exactly that, the ability of all of us to come together, to name what is going on, to defend each other, and to create a stronger and better country together. Thank you.